So dear students, we are doing synthesis and we have started complex sentences. So this is going to be my second video on complex sentence by using adjective clause. Just go and watch my first video. The link is given in the description box. When you will come to know about the first video, when you see the first video, you will come to know lots of things about adjective clause, and then you watch this video, okay? So it would be easy for you to understand everything. So in this video, what we'll do that we'll take two simple sentences and we'll see that how can we add those two simple sentences to make one complex sentence, by using adjective clause, okay? So let's start our video. I've already written on the board, to save the time, because, while, making video, if I write on the board, it takes a lots of time. So just to save the time, I've already written on the board, and we will practice today that how can we add two or more than two simple sentences to make one complex sentence by using adjective clause, okay? Now let's see. First sentence is, a lion was proud of his strength. A lion was proud of his strength. He despised the weakness of the mouse. Okay. Now I'm going to repeat it again so that it becomes crystal clear, to you. A lion was proud of his strength. This is first, sentence. Second sentence, he despised. The meaning of despise is, to hate somebody. So he despised the weakness of the mouse. Okay. So these are the two sentences, and these are simple sentences because we get only one finite verb here. A lion was proud of his strength. So was is, this is finite verb in first sentence, and in second he despised. So after subject we have this despise, this is verb. Okay. Now what we have to do, as we know the rule and we have already discussed about the rule that, adjective clause comes just after the noun or pronoun in the principal clause. Okay. In the principal clause, if some noun and pronoun is there, adjective clause just comes after that noun or pronoun, to describe or qualify that particular noun or pronoun. So here we see, a lion was proud of his strength. He despised the weakness of the mouse. So what we do that, the lion, a lion. This is, we see that in principal clause we have one, that is, a noun which is called lion. So our subordinate clause will start just after this, this pronoun. So it would be like this, a lion who was proud of his strength. So we know that, to make a subordinate clause, we always need a subordinate conjunction, subject and verb. These three things are very much needed to make a clause, we know it, okay? So, and also one thing, let me tell you one thing that, if who conjunction is there, we don't need any other subject, because in this conjunction, who subject itself is hidden. So that is why we don't have to, write subject anymore. So what we do that, a lion who was proud of his strength, this is, adjective clause describing this lion in the main clause. So a lion who was proud of his strength despised the weaknesses of the mouse. Actually the principal clause is, a lion despised the weakness of the mouse. This is the principal clause. Who was proud of his strength? This is, actually a subordinate clause, but we have to divide the principal clause into two halves. Why? Because we want to put the adjective clause just after the noun or pronoun in the principal clause so that it can describe it well. So, a lion who was proud of his strength despise the weakness of the mouse. So we have made this complex sentence. We have one subordinate clause and one principal clause. Since principal clause is divided into two parts, so that is why sometimes it's become difficult for students to understand that why the principal clause is divided into two parts. It's divided into two parts because we have to, as I told you, that we have to qualify the noun in the main clause. So that is why we have to put just after the noun of the main clause are, this subordinate clause. Okay. Now let's see another example. My friend is a lawyer. This is first sentence. He has a dog. This is the second sentence. And third, it barks at night. So we know that we have here three sentences. My friend is a lawyer. He has a dog. It barks at night. So what we'll do first, we will, connect these two, since we find that these are all simple sentences with one finite verb. So first of all, what we'll do that, my friend is a lawyer. He has a dog. It barks at night. So what I'm going to do first is, my friend is a lawyer. So since we find that lawyer and my friend, both of them are the same person, so we will put this lawyer in front of my friend. So my lawyer friend has a dog. It would be like this. So instead of telling, reading three sentences together, what we'll do that, we will take this lawyer and we will put it just before this friend. So my lawyer friend has a dog. Okay, this has become only one sentence and we'll remove this is. So my lawyer friend has a dog. Till here we have principal clause because two sentences are here, just see. And instead of reading these two sentences, what I did that I took the lawyer, from the first sentence. Since my friend and lawyer is the same person, so what I did that I put lawyer in front of this my and friend, in between these two words. So it has become my lawyer friend. Now we are not going to write this is, okay. Instead we will write my lawyer friend has a dog. Okay. So till here we have principal clause. My lawyer friend has a dog. And now dog is a noun in a principal clause. So after dog we will have to put the subordinate adjective clause. So what we'll do, my lawyer friend has a dog. Look, I have solved it. My lawyer friend has a dog which barks at night. Okay, so here we see that which barks at night, this is subordinate clause. Okay, and this subordinate clause which, it's starting with this conjunction which, and this this conjunction is describing the dog in the principal clause. So we see that my lawyer friend has a dog. So we have a noun in the principal clause which has been described or qualified by this subordinate clause which comes just after this noun. So it will become my lawyer friend has a dog which barks at night. Okay, is it clear to you? Okay, now let's see third one. I suffered from anxiety. This is first sentence. I suffered from anxiety. This anxiety was extreme. So these are the two sentences. Now we have to add these two sentences to make one complex sentence. I suffered from anxiety which was extreme. Now we have added these two sentences. I suffered from anxiety. We see this anxiety is noun. So what we do that, after this anxiety, we will place a subordinate clause which is starting from subordinate conjunction which. So till here we have subordinate clause and I suffered from anxiety. This is principal clause. And in the principal clause we have this noun and this subordinate clause which is starting with the subordinate conjunction which is qualifying this noun in the principal clause. Now it has become complex sentence. I suffered from anxiety which was extreme. So this subordinate clause, it depends on principal clause for its meaning. So if we read out this part only, which was extreme. So which was extreme? What was extreme? We are not getting the right meaning until we add it with principal clause. So just find it, just keep in mind one thing, that subordinate clause always depends on principal clause for their meaning. Okay. Now let's see the last sentence. This is, the fourth one. I'll write more sentences on this board since this board is not too big, so that's why I have to write it again. Daniel came out alive from the den. The sentence is, Daniel came out alive from the den. Second sentence, in that dens lion were kept. I'm repeating the sentence. Daniel came out alive from the den. In that den lions were kept. Okay. So how we will add these two sentences to make one complex sentence? It would be like this. Daniel came out alive from the den. Since here we have principal clause, and in the principal clause we are having this noun den. Okay, so after this den, noun, we will have subordinating, adjective clause describing this noun in the principal clause. So it would be Daniel came out alive from the den where lions were kept. Okay, so this where lions were kept, so Daniel came out alive from the den where lions were kept. So we have, this is, from here we have subordinating adjective clause which is depending on principal clause for its meaning. Let's see more examples, okay, in my next slide. So I've written more examples on the board, to understand this adjective clause. How does it work in, to combine two or more than two simple sentences to make one simple sentence. Okay, so the theft was committed last night. The theft was committed last night. This sentence is in passive voice. Second sentence, the man has been caught. Okay, the theft was committed last night. The man has been caught. Now what we'll do, the man, after the man, because we are talking about the man, the man, the theft was committed last night, the man has been caught. So we find that this man is a noun and about whom, something has been said. So what we'll do, that we'll write man, and immediately after this man we have to write adjective clause which describe this man. Okay, so the man who committed theft last night. So we see that till here we have, subordinating adjective clause. So the man who committed theft last night has been caught. This has become complex sentence, and remember this principal clause is divided into two parts because in the beginning of a sentence we have this this noun. So if the noun comes in the beginning of a sentence, we divide it, we just put subordinate clause after it. Okay, and we have to divide the principal clause into two parts. But if the noun in the principal clause comes at the end of the sentence, then we don't need to divide the principal clause into two halves. Okay, so the man has been caught, actually this is principal clause, and subordinate clause who committed theft last night. Is it clear to you? So this who committed theft last night, starting with the conjunction who, this conjunction is used in adjective clause, and this whole part is subordinating adjective clause describing the noun in the principal clause which has come in the beginning of a sentence. So it has become the man who committed theft last night has been caught. Okay. Now let's see another example. You are not keeping good health lately. You are not keeping good health lately. Can you tell me the reason? This is second sentence. Can you tell me the reason? So what we'll do that, we'll start our sentence with can you tell me the reason? Because we know that, this noun has come, in the principal clause, and this noun, remember, it has come at the end of the sentence. So that is why we don't have to divide principal clause into two parts. So can you tell me the reason why are you not keeping good health? So this is principal clause. Can you tell me the reason? Okay. Can you tell me the reason is principal clause, and in principal clause we have this noun reason. So immediately after this principal clause we have this subordinating adjective clause. Why are you not keeping good health lately? This is subordinating adjective clause, and this adjective clause is describing this noun which has come in the principal clause at the end of the principal clause. Okay. So can you tell me the reason why are you not keeping good health lately? Now let's see number 7 example. This is the school I was taught here. So here we find two sentences. This is the school I was taught here. So I have added it like this. This is the school. Since we have a school in the principal clause, and subordinate clause should come after this noun, qualifying this noun. Okay. So this is the school where I was taught. This conveys the same meaning. Okay. This is the school I was taught here. I have added it like this. This is the school where I was taught. So from here we have subordinating conjunction using adjective clause, and this subordinating conjunction is describing this school in the principal clause, and this subordinating conjunction is depending on principal clause for its meaning. Because so we see that this subordinating clause is depending on principal clause for its meaning, because subordinating clause or subordinate clause never has its own meaning. It totally depends on principal clause for its meaning. Now number 8, you put it somewhere, show me the place. So we have two sentences. You put it somewhere, show me the place. So I've added it like this. Show me the place where you have put it. So show me the place, it is principal clause. Where you have put it, this is subordinate clause. Subordinating adjective clause has been used here, which is describing this place in the principal clause. This is a noun. Okay. So now it has become clear to you. So let's move towards one more slide so that it becomes crystal clear to you. Now let's do more examples. My traveling companion was an old gentleman. This is one sentence. My traveling companion was an old gentleman. This is one sentence. His name is Mr. Tom. This is second sentence. I met him in Chicago. This is the third sentence. Okay. So now we have to combine these three sentences, to make one complex sentence. Okay. So what we'll do? My traveling companion, I have added it like this. My traveling companion, Mr. Tom. Oh, so what I did that, my traveling companion was an old gentleman. His name is Mr. Tom. So what I did that, my traveling companion, after writing this subject, my traveling companion, I have written Mr. Tom as an noun in apposition. If you have watched my video by using simple sentences, how can we add, make one or more than one simple sentences, there you will find this rule that, by using noun in apposition, we can add two sentences to make one simple sentence. So here what I did that I have taken two sentences together, that my traveling companion was an old gentleman, his name is Mr. Tom. So what I did that my traveling companion, this is the subject, and Mr. Tom, they are the same person. So what I did that I've written it like this, my traveling companion Mr. Tom. So Mr. Tom, it is separated by comma. This Mr. Tom is this subject, my traveling companion. Both are the same person. So that is why it is called noun in apposition, So my traveling companion Mr. Tom, whom I met in Chicago, was an old gentleman. So what I did that, first of all I've written my traveling companion Mr. Tom, and then I've written this subordinate adjective clause after Mr. Tom, because Mr. Tom is the person about whom we are talking, and this Mr. Tom has come in the principal clause. And so that is why after Mr. Tom I have written, since we know that Mr. Tom is the subject of our principal clause. So that is why we have to divide the principal clause into two parts, because after Mr. Tom we have to write this subordinate clause. So my traveling companion Mr. Tom, whom I met in Chicago. So whom I met in Chicago, this is subordinating adjective clause which has come just after Mr. Tom to qualify him, was an old gentleman. So here we see that we have divided this main clause into two parts. My traveling companion Mr. Tom was an old gentleman. This is principal clause, and whom I met in Chicago, this is subordinating adjective clause which is totally depending on principal clause for its meaning. So my traveling companion Mr. Tom, whom I met in Chicago. So one thing is that after this subject, since we are talking about Mr. Tom, so it was very necessary for us to put this subordinating adjective clause just after the subject, Mr. Tom, about whom we are talking. So when we write this subordinate clause just after the noun we are talking, it started describing or qualifying that particular noun. Okay. Now let's see that is 10 number, example. A fox once met a lion. This is first sentence. The fox had never seen a lion before. This is the second one. Okay. So the fox once met a lion. The fox had never seen a lion before. So I have added these two sentences to make one complex sentence. It goes like this. A fox who had never seen a lion before met him. Okay. So again we see that our principal clause are divided into two parts. So the principal clause, a fox who had never seen a lion before. So who has never seen a lion before? Till here we have subordinate clause, okay, describing this noun in the principal clause, and our principal clause has been divided into two parts. So a lion met him. A fox met him. A fox who had never seen a lion before met him. Okay. So I hope all exercises have become clear to you, and if you are having some problem in understanding it, please comment me, so that please write comments so that I can understand that where the problem is and whether you are able to understand my teaching or not. And I actually teach in English, so that there are so many students out there who are not able to understand Hindi. For them I try to make my video. So give thumbs up if you like my video, subscribe and share my video. Okay.